reason why I believe that the U was ever a thing was not only did they have collegiate success, they had NFL legend success. When you start to look back and you say, hey, Warren Sapp was on that team, Ed Reed was on that team, Sean Taylor, rest in peace, was on that team. Oh, this person was on that team, Santana Moss, Andre Johnson, Greg Olson, Jeremy Shockey. Like, all these individuals that were on this team not only performed at a high level on a college level, they then took their talents to the NFL and still performed at a high level, which made everybody start to think, you know, we all have those Ryan Clark, Louisiana State University, Cam Newton, swag, technical. Like, those things when everybody was saying, blase blah, the U, blase blah, the U, blase blah, the U. When you start to see that, you can't say if they're back yet, but it sure felt special to see what we considered them to be underdogs in many of these games and still find a way to, like you said, RC, be physical, dominated the point of attack. And one of the things that stood out to me was, as the offensive side, they're running the ball on 3rd and 3. They're running the ball on 4th and 2. Basically saying, stop me. You know what's happening? Hey, stop me. That's what I would say the U has that kind of flavor and feeling that we have always seen down there.
This team and the U isn't back until they win a championship. Okay. They didn't become the U because they was gangsters. They became the U because they were champions, and then they did it their way. You remember the films of Jonathan Vilma flipping people in the middle of the field. You remember seeing Michael Irvin jousting with the football. You remember all of these things about these teams because they were iconic moments, but moments until you hoist the trophy, until you could say that our team was the best team in all of the world. Because being a champion says we're not just a great group of individuals, we're a team, we're a cohesive unit. We're a unit that can go on the field, have one goal, and everybody plays toward that goal and accomplish it. Now, when you see Edgerrin James at the coin toss and you see Ray Lewis at the coin toss and Michael Irvin sweating more than any other player that's on the field, you understand they are starting to get the feeling and the nostalgia that what they see on the field is exactly what it needs to be. But until Carson Beck and until Mario Cristobal walks off of the stage and is celebrated as a champion, the U is not back, because you got to win championships and sustain that level of play. That's who they were. They weren't just a flash in the pan. That was a consistent level of excellence, and it starts with championships.
Trifecta all the way. You ain't back until you win the chip, because that's what they did back in the day. They did it 3 times in the 80s. They did it 1 time in the 90s. They did it in 2001. Whether it was Jimmy Johnson, whether it was Schnellenberger, whether it was Erickson, whether it was Coker, it didn't matter. They got several different coaches that delivered the national championship. That was the standard, okay? And Cristobal, who's done a phenomenal job. We got to give credit where credit is due, because there was some trepidation about him over the last couple of years in terms of his ability to coach in big game situations. He certainly has put that notion to bed. But the bottom line is you still have to close. And let's understand something that's very, very important. Even though there is a game tonight, and even though we all know that Oregon can beat anybody, the fact of the matter is the Indiana Hoosiers right now, over the last several weeks, especially after they won the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State, has been believed to be the best team in the nation, okay, with a Heisman Trophy winner that's projected to go #1 overall in the upcoming NFL draft once this season is over. Everybody's looking at them to be the team that's going to win the chip. So you're Miami, you still have an uphill battle. We respect it. We appreciate the great season that you've had. But not only are you in the national championship game, the national championship game is on your home turf. Now, I remember having Michael Irvin on this very show going ballistic when it came to Tampa Bay being in the Super Bowl against Kansas City, if I remember correctly. And one of the things that he was bloviating about was, you don't let somebody, I said, Michael Irvin, what would you say to Tampa Bay? You let nobody come into your house, and take what you got. He's talking about you being on your home turf and losing a championship game? Well, guess who's on their home turf for the national championship? It is Miami. So again, the better team, if they beat Oregon, is coming into the house, your house, on your turf, where you play home games to try and take a national championship from you. All of those things come into play when we're talking about the U being back. Because if the U goes out in the national championship game and loses on their home turf and finishes as runner-up status, we appreciate what you've done. Great, great season. You're a good team. But you ain't those dudes unless you close the deal. That is the standard that Miami wants established, and that's what they'll be looking at.
Okay, Heather Dinich is up with us early this morning, and so we go with a Quinta box as we've got Lewis here, we got Jordan and Josh, and we got Heather in a hotel room that I feel like she's been in for like 2.5 years now. So Heather, your responsibility, your assignment for us last night was the Ole Miss side of it. So take us to their locker room and their reaction after they had this incredible and emotional playoff run that comes to a heartbreaking end last night. What sorts of things were they saying?
Well, there were certainly heavy hearts, as you would expect, but the overriding message from the players and the coaches that I spoke with was that this chaos throughout the season after Lane Kiffin left brought them so much closer together, and they never quit. They didn't quit against Tulane. They didn't quit against Georgia. They didn't quit until the last play of the game of what was an absolute thriller. And after Lane Kiffin left, I was told that they had a players-only meeting, and that's when about 8 of the guys got up in front of the room, and that's when they decided we're not going to let this thing break us. And the players agreed that they were built for this. And so there was also a sense of pride and accomplishment last night because they have done something that no one else in Ole Miss school history has done. They won 13 games. They made it to the college football playoff. And so there was certainly accomplishment with that heartache last night.
You know, quickly, because we didn't get to it the first time we went through this, Josh, certainly you tipped your imaginary cap to Pete Golding and the players on that team and all the rest of that. I had shown earlier this morning Lane Kiffin's post last night. I'll defend anything he writes last night because you're going to destroy him for whatever he writes, and you're going to destroy him if he doesn't write something. He's in a no-win situation. But we didn't really comment on him. The book is now written on this chapter. What does it say about Lane Kiffin, Josh?
It says that he took a new job. I mean, my approach the past couple of weeks has been, I got no problem with Lane Kiffin. I like Lane. I didn't really care to talk about him, even though it was glaringly obvious that he had a big place in this whole storyline, this whole team arc of Ole Miss, only because I thought it did such a disservice to the guys that were still there. And it did such a disservice to the coaches that stuck around. Look, this is an adult. I mean, it's a business, okay? So you've got adults in a business making adult decisions. And like you said, they're not going to be met with 100% approval. So people think what they think about Lane Kiffin. I will promise you no one changed their mind on Lane Kiffin last night. But if I'm Pete Golding, if I'm that team, I'm looking and saying, hey, the guy we still have here just won a bigger game in his first 2 career games than the guy who left us did his entire career here. So I think we're set. I think we'll be all right.
Okay, fair enough. I wanted to get one more thing from Heather before we let her fly home to her family, which misses her terribly. And that is, Heather, your primary job, or the reason we usually have you in here for all the time, is going over the college football playoff and everything else, and you cover that as closely and as intimately as anyone in the industry. We have the 10th seed going to play for the national championship now. We hear a lot of people that say 12 teams isn't the right number. The way it's currently put together isn't right. They should expand to 16. What is your sense of where that all is right now and going forward?
Well, my sense in talking to sources is that there's more momentum than ever to go to a 16-team field, possibly as soon as 2026. If SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey and Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti can agree to it, and right now that stalemate still exists. Those 2 men have the bulk of control over the future format. The deadline is at the end of the month in order to change it if they are going to. And if they cannot agree, it will stay at 12 for now.
Jordan, should they go to 16?
Absolutely. I think this is a great case study in just how talented the group in the field can be. And think about this. This is another reason why. Remember, Notre Dame signed a memorandum of understanding. If they finish in the top 12, they are guaranteed a spot in the college football playoff. If this scenario happened next year, Miami wouldn't have been in. It would have been Notre Dame. Now, I think you could argue Notre Dame probably was good enough to play for a national championship. And I hope, with an expanded playoff that a team like that gets a chance, because I think they could have matched up really well against Ole Miss as well. But because of that memorandum, because they're able to control their schedule, I just don't think it's fair to only have 12. If you got a scenario where they could jump a team that is maybe more deserving, or in this case, a team that beat them. So I think you got to expand it. I would love 16. I think there's just so much talent. Vandy, Texas, Notre Dame, all teams that could have made a run if they put it together if they were in the playoff this year.
Lewis?
Yeah, I agree. Look, and Jordan,